I love the pace of growing food. It's somehow settling to me that you really feel like you're part of something bigger, I think, because you're interacting with a lot of different organisms, a lot of different systems, weather systems, soil systems, rain and so on. And yeah, I feel like I'm part of something when I'm growing food.
East Aboriginal Community Garden, it gives us ownership again. Something that we have been fighting for years is to have ownership of land. And it might be only an acre in size, but you know, that acreage, that 1 acre can give us enough food to provide for a small community. So
there's a few motivations. Definitely enjoyment. I grew up with a family that we had homegrown veggies, and it's so beautiful to pick stuff from the garden and cook with it. From a sustainability perspective, climate change and all the impacts that we as a human race have on the world, I think it's probably one of the most powerful things that all of us can do.
You cannot buy a tomato that tastes as good as one you grow yourself. There simply doesn't happen, because commercially they're picked green and carted around in trucks and put in cold storage, goodness knows what else. And here, I can wait until they're ripe and then pick them and eat them. I have one I picked just now. And that'll go into my lunch today probably. Yeah, so yeah, there's just no comparison between what you can grow yourself and what you buy.
Waking up in the morning, that's our bedroom window over there, and we wake up and we look out here and the sun hits the beehives and they start zooming around and the birds pop into the bird bath and have a bath literally, make a huge mess, and just looking at the flowers or the fruit or whatever time of year, and it's just very calming. It's just a good place to be. It's, you know, I mean, we aren't stressed, but if ever we are, it's just very relaxing and it's healthy. So yeah, it is about that mental well-being as well as physical well-being, very much so.
Well, to have your own food supply, it's at hand straight away. It's healthy, you know what you've put in. We can grow in quantities to preserve for later this year. And again, it is just the therapy involved in growing and the satisfaction of growing your own vegetables and going out and pick it.
It doesn't take as much time as people imagine.
Yeah.
You know, I'll come home after work, we'll wander around the garden and decide what we're going to eat that night and go and pick it then. You know, if you're walking along and you see a weed, pull it out then, you know, don't just do it.
Yeah.
The big jobs, you know, people look at the berries and think, well, they're a lot of work. Once a year, we'll spend a day, you know, just drenching all the berries to make sure they're not escaping and all of that sort of stuff. But then you really don't do much for the rest of the year, just harvest berries. The time like that, yes, it does take time.
But we don't go to the gym, so that's an hour we don't have to spend there. We spend it here. We don't spend hours in the supermarket deciding what veggies to buy, because we just go and pick them.
Yeah, this garden here, we did get in and weed it. We spent about 2 hours weeding it the other day. That's the only thing we've done to it for a year. Once things are up and established, and there's good ground covers and everything, you don't have to worry about it too much.
This might look like a lot of effort, it's actually not, believe it or not. I use a lot of time-saving structures where I can, like the tomato trellis, so I don't have to stake tomatoes, it just saves so much time. I use a lot of mulch to keep the weeds down, so I don't have to do much in the way of weeding. So using things like that, it cuts back the amount of work that I have to do, because like everyone these days, I am relatively time poor.
Because Wendy and I both work Monday to Friday now, we both work in the garden on the weekends.
Daylight saving helps in the summer, so getting up early and doing things before it's too hot, and then Tony ends up in the afternoons late while I'm getting dinner. So we just tag team a bit.
When we moved into this place, which is 2 acres, you know, and it's substantially bigger than any garden I've ever lived in before. I have 2 little kids and I work a full-time job. My husband works full-time, and it was really confronting to think about what we, you know, we'd bitten off more than we could chew. But once I started going, I just have a small by small approach, and so just doing things, you know, one garden bed at a time, and then one garden bed at a time, and not trying to see things as a whole, but rather just piece by piece, plant by plant.
Manage a garden this size is you have to, well, not allow the garden to get away on you. So even if you just spend an hour a day in the garden, it is worth it. Gardening I don't see as a chore. It needs to be a love, because if you see it as a chore, you won't do it. So this is my exercise. This is my therapy for my head, for my mind, for my body.
Towards the end of summer, I look forward to the winter because it's a time just to stop and restock and get on top of things again. I kind of like that about this climate actually, you do get a rest. It's really interesting when you try to slow down to make that time to grow your own food, which does take a lot of time. It's really hard to step aside out of the rat race of having to work like long hours, because you need to make that decision. You forego that income to spend time at home in this. My philosophy is basically I wish I had more time, and it's a balance, isn't it, I guess. So I think it's a really valuable way to spend your time, but you find yourself fighting to get that time.
What I do is I try to spend the first hour of each day, so far as that's practical, in the vegetable garden. So I have a cup of tea and I come out here. It works for me because at that time of day my vegetable garden is in the shade, so I can spend an hour or so pottering around when I can, and then it's the rest of the day can look after itself, yeah.
Be prepared to kill plants. It's okay, it doesn't matter. Start with something easy and go from there. Tomatoes are really easy, they're really rewarding, you get a lot of fruit off them. And grow things that you'll eat. Don't grow things that you won't eat.
Don't do too much all at once, and just start with what you really want to eat, I think. Don't grow celery if you don't like celery, just because it's easy.
I spent my first year building my soil, and then the second thing is to just work out what are those things that like to grow in your garden and concentrate on those. So there's no point, I think, beating yourself over the head saying, I'm going to grow this particular vegetable come hell or high water because I like it, if it doesn't want to grow in your place. You're better off finding those things that do like growing there and work on those.
There's so much information on YouTube, on Google. There's incredible amount of information there, and also just feel comfortable. Nobody's going to criticise you that tomato plant didn't do as well, but you'll learn, and with all of those come small experiences that will build, and you'll be better next time. And you know that certain things don't work well. We've had to cut out some plants where we just realised that this doesn't work here. It's too cold, they die, and we move on.
I lived in Sydney in Erskineville in a tiny little terrace that was 3 metres wide and had broccoli boxes, literally, and grew veggies. You can start small, you can start big, just do what you feel like doing.
If I had to say one piece of advice to someone who is starting out gardening, mulch. Like, it's the key to everything. But kind of, I guess, more philosophically, you know, gardening is experimental. You know, you'll have a good season, you'll have a bad season. Sometimes things will grow, sometimes they won't. But just experiment, throw things in, give things a go. You never know what will grow in your garden until you've given it a shot. And yeah, mulch.